Good evening, everybody. Hope you can see us. David's a little off centre, mate. I don't know if you want to recenter your cam.
I'll adjust in a second.
I'll lean over this way so it looks more symmetrical. How's that?
I'm rummaging.
A little bit late getting started, so we've got the usual compulsory technical problems. Bloody too many things going on. Good to see everybody in the chat. Busy as usual, guys. Thank you for turning up and enjoying another hobby live stream. It is. Look at them
already.
Yeah, look at them. Look at them. They can't bloody wait. Champing. They're champing at the bit. Excuse all this crap here. This is in preparation for me showing you what I'm hobbying on. So everything's all a bit in my face, but I will get rid of all this gubbins and arse when we get into things. So, good evening.
Better? Am I more central?
You are a bit more centered. For me, you're a little bit screen left, but you're way better than you were. Because basically, we got a shot of your fucking blank wall. Screen left. You go the other way. Left. You move your camera to your right, or move to the. That's it. Hey!
I'll move left. It's easier.
Okay, you do that. You do you, son. You do you. Right. Okay. So, for those of you who've not been here before, welcome to another Thursday night hobby live stream here at yellowbellytabletop. Good to see everybody. Let's do things the correct way. Let's give everybody a shout out in the chat who's turned up for this evening's festivities, because we've got the usual crowd in. I think right at the top there we've got Orinoco. Good to see you. We've got Mr. Darren Harmon. Now, before we move on, let's just see what he's doing, because he's always right in there telling us what Darren's hobbying on. So he's putting the final touches to the bases of 3 tree men he's been working on all day. What are you doing the tree men for, Darren? Are you just sort of doing them universal to fit them in anything, or is it like a Blood Bowl or something to do with your 5 leagues, or have you got a project in mind, sir? We've got Upworlder stroke Trevor, we've got Shakos and Sprues, Mr. Paul Howells from Pandyman Entertainment, Spam and Egg, your other half, loyal as ever.
Yep.
And Cheese Me, hello sir, Allah. And I think that's all of you shouted out. Good to see each and every single one of you. Welcome to the show. For those of you who've not been here before or are joining us for the first time, have
you missed Cheese Me's comments, sir?
No, well,
apparently.
Oh, shut up! Look at, I knew it. I shouldn't. Right, that's it. I'm not saying anything anymore. God damn it! You can sort yourselves out. Right. Oh, Crispin. Hello. Because Crispin stroke because of Ben is here. We like to be complicated here, and everybody has aliases. So good luck keeping up if you're new. So yeah, if you're new, for the next couple of hours, we will go through our usual format. What we'll do first is okay. So Darren's using them in 5 leagues from the Borderlands. Good man. I bet they look awesome.
Come to your comment in a minute, Crispin.
Okay, yeah. No, but we will come to that. So yes, what we'll do first is we will show you what we're going to be hobbying on, because the point to be here tonight, or if you're watching us later on YouTube, is to get some hobby done, put us on in the background, listen to us talk a load of crap, focus in on a hobby project, get some paint down on something, get some terrain built, models built, whatever it is that floats your boat, because that's why we're all here and that's why we do what we do. So we'll do that first, because David and I are going to have some projects to work on. Then we'll talk.
I've just had a bit of a rummage to discuss something with the chat first before we go to what I'm working on.
Oh,
we'll do you first.
That'll be good, because while you're doing that, I can get rid of all this crap that's in my grill at the minute. So then we will talk about what we did at Gaming Club on Monday night. At the game we played, because it feeds into tonight's topic. It was, as is happening a lot at the moment, the games that we play during the week are inspiring the things that we want to talk about on Thursday. So,
do you want to know the best thing, Paul?
What?
The thing that I want to talk about and get advice from segues quite nicely into what we did at club on Monday. Well,
I'm going to ruin that, because as you talk about that, instead of segueing into our main topic, which will come later at about 9 o'clock, we're gonna talk about the news and some shit we've seen on YouTube and the internet this week.
And Kickstarter.
Yeah. Luckily, I haven't been on Kickstarter because I'm trying to have a cheap month. I don't see. I was hoping he may turn up. I was hoping we might have Ewok Kebab in the chat because he got that game, something Nightmares, the new one from Osprey, the Cthulhu one. And he said he was getting the book through the post, and I hoped he would be in the chat so I could grill him on what he'd found out about it, whether he thought it was a good shout or not.
Right.
But he might be busy. So do you want to go? Let me go first.
No, you go first. But before we go to you going first,
okay.
Everyone shut the F up about Fallout. I need to watch it. I'm really hyped for it, and hopefully it's as good as everybody else in chat is saying it is.
Yeah, that's true.
Because I was under the impression it was releasing tomorrow, but earlier in the week they announced that it was releasing 2 days early. So instead of releasing on the 12th in America, they've released it on the 10th, and it now means that it's all available in the UK at stupid o'clock this morning. Is the 8 episodes that have been released, is that all of it, or is that just half of the season?
Ewok is here. Good man. Yeah, so because I asked David this question the other night, whether they're going to do, are they doing is it a dump, or are they doing an episode a week? No.
Well, I think it's a dump.
Stop it.
Because
See,
I went on Amazon Video earlier and saw that there was 8 episodes.
Oh, right, so that's it. They've dumped it.
Yeah.
It's a dump. Yeah, okay. Cool. Do you know what? I might actually give that a shout. That might be worth watching. So you've not had it. You did mention it last night, mate, but you've not had a chance to look at it yet. Too busy?
No, I haven't. I've been busy.
Right. Well, I tell you what.
It's been a roller coaster. Let's just leave it at that.
I'll tell you what we'll do. I'll make an effort to watch at least a couple of episodes over the next 7 days, so that when we come in next week, we can have a little chat about it, if you like.
Fucking amateur numbers. I'm going to do the entire episode.
Yeah, I'm not committing. I am not committing to that, because I don't think I'll be able to binge the entire series. Let's go to what we're working on tonight, though, and get these fucking lights and shit sorted in front of me, and it won't look like such a complete fucking car crash for everybody. Right, okay, so progress.
Car crash when you're involved.
Shut up. Progress is being made. You've all seen this before. This is my Carnival Terrain that's I got at UKGE last year, I think, or maybe it was 2 years ago. I fucking lose track.
Try again. Try again. It was 2 years, mate.
Yeah, I thought it was 2 years. So yeah, it's coming along nicely. I'm really pleased with it. I've literally just put in this cream. I've got to do a couple more. I've got to do one more sort of coat to. You probably get. It's looking. It looks better in the camera than it does in real life.
What are you doing with your windows?
The windows, when I put the wash on, it'll just pull out this sort of leading effect in a dark wash. I honestly, mate, I'm not going mad on this stuff. I
just wondered if you're going to base coat them, not the grey.
No, the grey is because actually, if you look at pictures and like portraits of 15th, 16th century Venice, because of the water reflected off the canals, all of the windows have this blue grey reflected look in the paintings. So
Shakos is telling you need to see a doctor if you need to put more cream on it.
Yeah. Well, luckily I'm a pharmacist, so I know
prescribe himself, boys and girls.
I know exactly what I'm doing with my cream. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing tonight. Probably running around the inside. You can't really see on camera, but these inside edges of these windows need running around because at the moment they're the same colour as the window, and it looks a bit incongruous. So we're just going to run some paint around the inside of these windows. This you can just see how thin that cream is on this bottom edge. I need to do a second coat just to solid it up. I'm not looking for completely even paint coverage because, number one, this is MDF and I would be wasting a ton of paint to get completely even coverage. And hot tip for anybody who's painting stuff like this, don't worry about it, because if you take a look down your high street at all the rendered and buildings that are like 200 plus years old and have been weathered to fuck, there is no even colouring on anything. So if you start trying to get things perfectly evenly coloured, all it'll look like is it's made out of either plastic or spray painted or spray coated steel. So it'll look completely unrealistic. You want some unevenness of colour, you want some mottling. It will make it look all the more realistic. So do not obsess. Just get the paint on, get a wash on, call it done. This MDF is a bitch and it's a ton of work at the best of times. Don't make it hard. No, they're not covered in graffiti, at least not in my fucking version of Venice, they're not.
Oh, speaking of graffiti and slight segue, I was reading a BBC News article earlier today about...
First mistake.
No, bear with. About Pompeii. And
Okay.
they've done an excavation and they've found some really nice frescoes in what they've titled the Black Room.
Yeah.
Because it's got black walls, it's got a white tiled floor, and it's at the back of this bakery and stuff. But there's also graffiti on the walls, on a couple of the walls.
Knowing the Romans, it's probably rude and obscene graffiti.
Yeah.
But that's because the Romans had a very different set of moral values to us as it comes to nudity. For them, it was quite, drawing massive genitalia on walls wasn't considered childish. It was considered normal communicative interaction. I'll be honest. The thing is like, I overanalyze and overwork everything, Darren. So I've literally been studying images on the internet to get the look that I wanted. That sort of like almost red sandstone combined with white marble or white limestone seemed to be a very common thing in a lot of portraiture from the period. So I've tried to keep the colour palette as accurate as I could, and like I said, even going down to studying the way windows were painted and how the artists did it. And as I say, because they were all similar, I think it must be something to do with the way the water comes off the canals, because they all had this bluey grey tinge, the way they were all painted in. Again, it'll have something to do with the medieval glass. I imagine it was quite poor, low quality, sort of like dark glass as well. In those sort of times. Well, I suppose it's Renaissance rather than medieval, but guys know what I mean. I'm not a fucking historian, I'm a pharmacist, for God's sake. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on. What about you, buddy?
So if we come down to my camera, we'll shuffle them to the side. I have decided for my spring clean project to get my fucking Gaslands 3D printed shit painted and done.
Fucking hell.
I came home from work today and I rattle can primed a shit ton of containers. So we're going to be airbrushing shit tonight.
I'll be honest, I mean, you guys are probably getting sick of seeing this. Number one, I've committed myself, I must paint all of this crap before we go to UKG at the end of May, because I'm not buying another terrain table until my last one is painted. Now, luckily, I bought the harbour set, so there's literally about 4 buildings like this, and then the rest of it ships. So that's going to be fucking lots of leather brown base coat primer from Army Painter and dry brush the shit out of everything. So they should go quite quickly.
You doing the rigging on them?
Fuck off, man. I'm not even putting sails on half of it. Airbrush ASMR incoming. Yeah, here we go. Oh my God, he's got all his cars. He's got his toy cars out as well.
And then I'm going to bring my cars into shot, because on Monday at club, we played some Gaslands, and I made a car with the assistance of Paul that was a little bit ridiculous. So when I say ridiculous, it's not overly funny and humorous if you're on the receiving end of it, but it's very humorous for the driver, because it's basically one shot, one kill. It's the Mishkin truck with an arc lightning projector on top with an experimental nuclear engine. I have selected my trucks because there's also a Car of the Month competition on the Gaslands Facebook group. So I'm going to try, and next week I'm going to do this live on camera, do some conversion work. But in preparation for that, what do people fancy as a Mishkin-themed truck? Because we've got a few options.
Well, Mishkin wants to look high-tech, doesn't it?
Russian, really.
Okay. But technology is their thing, isn't it? I mean, that's what I would pick, because that looks totally ultra-tech. Or something like, I wouldn't pick like the flatbed.
Yeah, but I'm thinking flatbed with a person in with the arc lighting projector on a turret.
Well, yeah, and what are you thinking? Putting that on the back of the blue one? Or the white one? What do you
I
think?
don't know, I'm asking opinions.
For me, the futuristic looking blue one with the weird sloped back is what's the yellow one?
Yes, spam. It's currently sat in my kitchen because that's where I keep my Gaslands cars. It's an MRAP.
No, that's more of a military looking. That looks more Rutherford, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. The only other thing I was thinking is this batshit crazy, like, Baja truck.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this is David and we do everything on hard mode.
Yeah, you're not joking, guys. Jesus Christ.
The bastard.
To be fair, Darren said the red one at the back. I think Darren thinks you're onto something there. A tractor for Russians. A good shout, Cheeseby. Have you got any tractors? You should have.
No, I haven't.
You got a bit of a thing for tractors.
I am gonna convert this hot chicken truck into an ice cream truck, though.
Okay, that's fair.
It's going to be hilarious.
You should do that for the paint competition, mate. Comedy.
Yeah, but I just want to do the Mishkin thing as well and kill two birds with one competition.
Okay. I don't know what's funny about a Mishkin truck with a massive laser on it, though.
It hasn't got a massive laser on it for starters. It's got a massive Tesla coil.
Oh, well, God, pedantry.
That's going to
pedantry.
Hurt, but we'll talk about that later. So, thoughts and opinions, leave it in the comments below or spam chat, and I'll rewatch after. So, we're going to get on with some airbrush ASMR, boys and girls. Let's go.
Oh, great. Don't forget to glue all your wheels rigid. Because I'm sick of cars.
Final one before I go.
Yeah, that is a cool car. I wouldn't. It could be Mishkin, I guess. That looks very 1950s US, though. I don't know which. That would probably be good for, I don't know, Maxine. Someone like that. A penis-shaped laser, says Cheeseby. That's already. Yeah, we know you're.
No, he's going to have a massive set of testicles hanging off the back because the driver's got balls.
Right.
Where did my box go?
That's it. Your desktop's gone, so you can do what you like. I should have taken this jumper off.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to
Too
find
hot
my
now.
minis. That's what I'm trying to do.
Right. So as David, I don't know if all of you have guessed, but talking about what we did at club on Monday. Guess what? Guess what we did at club on Monday, everybody? We played Gaslands. And we don't play Gaslands enough. So great looking table. David's really getting. We played Death Race again because that's sort of our favourite sort of format. I think we play it more often than not.
It's the most common one we play at club, isn't it?
I'd never thought actually we should have brought up that article that you did. The maker of Gaslands, who Paul Howells has tipped might be going to salute, Mr. Mike Hutchinson.
Mr. Mike Hutchinson has the reviews in for the
yeah, he had like a
survey, doesn't he?
Yeah, it was like a player survey. I don't know where did he host it? The Facebook group.
No, it was a YouTube linky.
Oh, okay. That's right. He did a video on his channel.
It was barely up a week, wasn't it?
That's right. So he did his I might try and find the article later when we're talking about the news, but he's put the article up on a blog, I think, on Planet Smasher Games, isn't it, mate? His website.
Yeah.
But David is getting very good at building these death race tables. We've got a really that if as you're looking at the table in front of you, the start gate is barely visible in the top left-hand corner.
Left-hand corner.
Then gate 1 is a short 10-12 inch run straight in front of it. So it's the one in the, again, top left area, but more
with
towards the centre.
A bit of an obstacle to try and split the pack up before going into the ramp.
Yeah, and then there's a ramp directly after it, which I never realised until I read the rulebook again the other day. There are actually rules for ramps and jumping on page 88 of the Gaslands Refueled rulebook. So I don't know if on a previous live stream we said that there weren't any, but we were lying and we were idiots because they're in there.
4x4, Darren. 4x4.
Yeah, 4x4, mate. So you've got 2 routes to gate 2, which is the one just off to the right of the bottom of the screen. You can either go straight over the ramp towards it, or you can take the longer, safer route around those containers on the left-hand side of the table, as we're looking at it here. Then you go back up towards gate 3, which is the one at an angle in the top right. Gate 4 is the one that's square on to the top of the table there in the top right-hand corner. Then you've got to loop back round to the start gate to complete the track. The game wasn't... We'll come to this later, but we played... there were 4 players running 1 car apiece, 50 can lists. We had a mixture of... You
played Maxine.
Maxine, which I did wrong, but we'll come to that probably.
I was Mishkin with the hilarious Land Rover that was 1 shot, 1 kill.
Yeah.
Ricky was the white police car with the red windows.
And
fucking highway interceptor.
Is it what's that faction called? That's
Highway Patrol.
Highway Patrol. And then
the final car was Trevor's, which is the black one just in the picture you see now coming through the gate. And he was playing Idris.
Yeah, Idris. So Trevor was basically trying to do the abuse the nitro, get the long straights for audience votes, that sort of shit. Yeah.
Ewok effort is the reason why. We just throw the terrain at David and go, David, build a table.
I tell you what was great about this table. First, I want to compliment David on his table building. Each time we play Gaslands, the tables get better to play. This one, the thing that the first few games that I played with, or the first game particularly I played with Gaslands, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I could have done because basically I never had to slow down. I tore around the track. I had an Idris list, so I got like up to gear 6, and I essentially didn't have to slow down for the entire game. But this track that David built this time, there were several times where you had to down gear. Because there was literally no way to navigate the track safely without actually down gearing. To add that to a track where you can't just pound round in 6th gear all the time, it really does change the game and makes it much more interactive and thinky. We had the only downer on this is the second game of Gaslands that we've played that we haven't finished. And one of the things I'm finding quite frustrating about the death race mode in Gaslands, particularly when you're playing it with multiplayer, even when you're only running a single car apiece, is how difficult it actually is to get the fucking games finished. And that feeds into the main topic, which we're going to come to later, about game length and how is that sort of like,
all be over?
As the game designer and the person making the rule set, how do you keep a handle on the actual length of the game and stop it ballooning so that it ends It doesn't. Ultimately, what happens for me is like there's this frustration. I enjoy Gaslands so much, but I get frustrated that I've been playing for 3 hours plus, and we haven't resolved the game. Do you know what I mean? For me, it enters this sort of like element of frustration and what have you. And anyway, we'll cover that later. So yeah, I played Maxine again. I've played Idris a few times, and I wanted to mix it up and try something different because I hate just doing the same thing over and over again. Unfortunately, I misread one of the sponsor rules for Maxine is that you can gain audience votes, or the way that Maxine gains audience votes is effectively you need to perform slide or spin maneuvers with your cars and end within short of a car. Now, I thought I misread the rule. Is it medium or short? I think it's short, but it might be medium. I misread the rule, and I didn't realise it said friendly car. So the more astute and smart among you will immediately realise, well, that doesn't work in a one-car list, Paul, does it? Because you can't end within short when you're the only fucking car on the table. So essentially, I had no mechanism for generating audience votes. Which was a bit of a shit. I still did fairly well. I think I got furthest round. I got through gate 4 before I got utterly battered by everybody else. And we ran out of time. So I got nearly round the track. But still, I will definitely come back and revisit this. So the moral for the story is, if you're building in Maxine and you're at whatever cans you're at, don't take single car lists. Okay, guys? Maxine must take minimum 2 vehicles, because otherwise you have no fucking way of generating audience votes. So, lesson learned, I won't do it again. But yeah, other than that, I was happy with the way I built the car. I had a way of managing my hazards. I was able to keep it on the road. I didn't again, something that I'm finding really difficult with Gaslands is you either go for agility and drivability, or you go for damage soak, don't you, David?
Well, again, my Mishkin truck couldn't handle for shit.
No.
Experimental nuclear engine means it's also dangerous AF. But it does also mean that it activates in gears 4, 5, and 6 and is reloading every turn in 4, 5, and 6. So you better not be within double range of that, motherfucker, because it hurts.
And you've got the fantastic rule that allows you to heal 1 damage per turn, haven't you?
Per gear phase.
Oh, per gear phase, yeah. So, the resilience of David's... See, David was totally the contrast to mine, weren't you? I think you were restricted to what? Top gears 4? And
no, could go up to 6
because of your net engine.
Otherwise, it would have been 4.
Your big problem was handling dice, wasn't it? You're only chucking 2 handling dice with your truck.
Handling 2.
Yeah, that's right. That was it. So basically, you weren't pulling any clever slides or spins because it was just basically impossible.
We'll come to that as well. The audience votes in Gaslands don't seem overly balanced because you have the likes of Miyazaki that can earn them like it's going out of fashion, and Idris that can earn 6 in the first 3 gear turns.
Yeah, 2 handling.
And then Mishkin only earn them for shooting with named weapons.
Yeah.
So with a Mishkin truck that has an arc lightning projector and a handgun, the maximum audience votes I can get from a game is 2.
Yeah. That is true. There are definitely some factions that there is no point building audience vote chasing. Having said that, I think with Mishkin there is quite a good build to chase audience votes if you take helicopters or gyrocopters, because obviously helicopters and gyrocopters can take droppable, deployable weapons like mines and shit without using build slots. So you can actually put like 8 or 10 versions of any kind of deployable weapon on a gyrocopter. As long as you've got the points, you don't need to worry it. Funnily enough, Ewok, you're not alone, mate. That's one of the surprising things that come out of Mike's survey, was that a lot of players don't bother with sponsors. Perhaps David and I are too unimaginative slaves to rules, but it never really occurred to us to play the game without using
I think I did
all
for
of
like
the
my demo
features
games and stuff. But the thing is, those sponsors make Gaslands cars feel unique.
Yeah,
They make factions do what they want to do, and there's a bit of flavour.
Yeah. I mean, Ewok says we ignored them all together, but we only played one-off games rather than campaigns. We've never played a campaign, Ewok. I don't think we'd ever find the time in club to fit a campaign in. You find this, so Ewok says he finds the sponsors really uninspiring. That's really interesting, mate. Because I would say the opposite. I think some of the one thing I will say about the sponsors, they don't necessarily make the game easier to play. If you pick,
no, they certainly don't.
Picking, actually building a team,
picking a sponsor and then building a list is an art.
Well, actually building a list, because it's very easy in Gaslands to build relatively good cars that will get the job done, and the sponsor becomes irrelevant if you're not careful.
Yeah.
Actually building cars and teams where it matters what sponsor you took, i.e. you're using your special rules and you're actually making them do stuff during the game, is actually quite hard. Like Darren says, he's played with 2 cars in Maxine but never managed to get audience votes. What this, and again, maybe this is me, one of the things that I really love about Gaslands and the sponsor system is that when I'm picking a sponsor and building a team, my only goal, really, and probably this is me being a fool, but I'm not focusing on how do I sort of like hand out good damage and how do I survive and how do I win the race or whatever. I'm just focusing on, okay, so I've got these rules, I've got to exploit them, I've got to get my tricks off. So I would focus on, how can I make sure that I do get those slides and spins and get my 2 cars, keep them close together to get the audience votes, etc. Because that's what excites me about Gaslands, actually building around the flavour of the sponsors.
It's the manipulation.
Yeah, for me, that's the inspiration. If you took that away from me, I would, I think, get very quickly tired of saying, okay, well, if I take, I don't know, a regular car, put a good machine gun on it, a couple of nice perks.
And again, the thing is, with the sponsors, we always sort of end up with different builds and lists because everybody's playing to their game.
That's it.
Whereas I think it would be a bit samey if we all just took vanilla cars. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I guess there's nothing to say that you couldn't deliberately say to yourself, well, I'm not using the sponsor rules, but I am not going to build the same car I built last week. I'm not going to use a flamer because it's so efficient. I'm going to pick a different weapon. I'm not going to use those perks because I know how they work. I'm going to choose some different perks and try them, blah, blah, blah.
Well, you don't get perks unless you get sponsors.
Well, yeah, but that's not, again, that's what Mike found from his survey. People were sort of detaching the two and basically doing their own thing, weren't they? From your, do you do that, Ewok? Do you drop the sponsors but keep the perks, or do you not use either?
Ewok, I'm going to put it out there now. You would love one of the magazines that he's got that has like the campaign rules in for buying cars and if they reckon die, etc. I can't remember which one it is, but I can tell you for certain by the end of next week.
What is that? Something that he's done as a PDF publication?
Yes, it
Okay.
is.
How does he sell them? Through Drive-Thru RPG?
It's
or...
free.
Oh, okay. What, just off Planet Smasher?
Time Extended, I think it's called.
Okay, that would be a good name for it.
And there's
Gaslands
an achievement.
Legacy. Darren saying Blaster
that,
has got Gaslands Legacy articles.
Yeah, Blaster's got Gaslands Legacy in, which I'm interested in doing because it's like a little mini narrative campaign. The other thing that really perks my interest with Gaslands, because it's one of those games, is the achievement system, like the old Xbox and PlayStation trophy achievements.
How does that work?
So there's a table, and there's a few on the table. One's like finish a game on fire and on a single hull point.
Oh my god, that sounds awesome.
You're just fishing to do this, do each one, etc. Some are relatively easy, some are quite difficult, but it does sound quite cool to give a try. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I mean, in conclusion, Gaslands is a fabulous game. Only downside, multiplayer can be a bit of a slog. Just my advice to you people who are trying Gaslands is don't get too ambitious with your player counts, and just because a fewer players, I think the game won't outstay its welcome, and you'll actually get stuff done. But yeah, awesome game. So yeah, that's what we did at club, and of course that's the only thing we got to share because we were both in the same game with Trevor and Ricky.
Shall we come to the news?
All right, let's do the news. Okay, so I'm gonna go first. Been watching a lot more of the Siege Studios podcast. They did one, I think, was this week or last week's? This was 7 days ago, so I think it was last week's. They did one on airbrushes. Really good sort of podcast format video. There's something that's becoming ever, I think it's getting to the tipping point now, probably where more of us have got airbrushes that haven't. But it's a really good stream or a really good discussion. Basically, what they're saying, it's really good advice for people who are either new to airbrushing or just about to acquire one. Be careful about what your preconceptions of what an airbrush is and what it will do. Great video. They discuss Gaslands Legacy apparently is up on Wargames Vault, mate. If you want to have a look at that, says Darren. Gaslands 5 Leagues mashup. What sort of madman are you, Ewok? Oh my god. Do you know what, Ewok? Actually having cars and drivers separated in Gaslands, I think, is possibly a genius suggestion. That really would, particularly for campaign, where obviously there are aspects of your car you can change easily, but aspects of your drivers that you can't change easily, either because you have a limited ability to recruit or whatever. But that is actually genius, to be fair to you, sir. You should immediately give Mike Hutchinson an email and tell him that in the next edition, or his first supplement should be the Lone Gun fucking Gasland supplement, where you actually develop separate driver profiles and that sort of shit. That is genius. Absolute fucking genius.
You know what I fancy as well at some point? Pink slip racing.
What? In English?
Winner takes the loser's car.
What? And the loser gets the winner's car?
I don't know. No, loser loses.
Yeah, that could get. What is this? Is this the Games Workshop campaign mode where losers keep losing, winners keep winning? Are we trying to fucking GW up Gaslands now?
More on that later.
So yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to say on airbrushing, mate. I don't imagine you watched this one, but
I find it occasionally a little bit of a chore. I don't know about you, but stripping and getting consistency right, particularly with the Vallejo model color paints, I can find a little bit difficult occasionally.
If I'm honest, my only obstacle to using my airbrush more is the fact that I don't have an evacuation like hood or chamber, so that when I'm using it, I'll be using it in the corner of my front room with the windows open, masked up, and then I have to go round and basically wipe up all the dust that's everywhere, because I don't have an extractor or anything like that. That is the thing that holds me back from using it more. Cleaning the airbrush, and I mean, I've got it all literally sat next to me. I can literally just plug it in, turn the air on, and ready to go. I don't have an issue with stripping it and cleaning the airbrush between uses. For me, the arse is the cleanup of my environment because I don't have an extraction hood and shit. That is the problem with airbrushes. The requirements from your actual workspace are actually more onerous than the brush itself for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose it's the same sort of thing. It's all about setup and tear down, and when I would never put my airbrush on, for example, to prime one Gaslands car. It's a bit like you were saying earlier with like you've done all that terrain. If I'm setting up my airbrush to do a prime, I've got like a 40-litre tote and I've got everything in there. Terrain pieces, models that want priming, and I'm going to do like a 2 or 3 hour priming session and I'm just going to fucking hammer it.
Do you use it a lot for base coating?
I do.
Doing work
per buildings, like all of the MDF and that, I'll put all the initial coats down just because it's so quick. And again, it depends obviously what models I'm painting. If I'm painting models where there isn't like a large colour on a majority of it, I won't bother. But Space Marines and fucking vehicles, yeah.
Oh, action.
Yeah, I'm going to be putting down, large blocks of colour, get them sort of like 3/4 of the way painted, like I did with my, when I did my bolt action armies, my Brits and my Japanese, that basic uniform colour, whether it was dark sand or whatever, I just did the whole miniature in dark sand and then just over painted all the other details. And it's just like it's just another dusting on top of your prime coat, so you can literally just smash through a huge amount of models so quickly. So I definitely do use it for that. I don't use it for any fine detail work. I don't have either I don't have the trigger control, and I don't really have a good enough quality compressor. I've discussed on the stream before my issues with mine, because it's a cheap compressor with a shit regulator. I get bursts of 40 psi, so even if I'm trying to go low psi for good control, as soon as I shut it off, as soon as I start it up again, it's peaked at 40, and then I've got I've got this blast, and then it goes down to 15 to give me the control. It's no fucking good at all. Absolutely no good at all. But it's on the list. You guys know what it's like. There's never enough money in this hobby to buy all the tools we want. I want to upgrade my regulator. I want to buy better cameras for the YouTube thing here. And again, then I want to buy games and hobby shit as well. Oh, actually, that reminds me, there's another news item I'm going to drop in later. Right, what's next? Oh. This is one of yours. Well, David's been on Kickstarter.
15 minutes to do the news.
Oh, shut up. We'll overrun if we have to.
I didn't go on Kickstarter.
David's... Oh, no, you're on my mini... He's on...
Saw a post for this on one of the Discord groups for Titan Forge for 3D printing minis. Yes, it is available on Kickstarter as a physical pledge, but it's also available on my mini factory as a digital pledge. So if you scroll on down, it's an entire Dwarven Army, and fuck me, is it pretty.
Yeah.
I think I've just decided on what dwarves I'm buying and 3D printing to do my fantasy boys and girls.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you, mate. I was looking at this. I do have some dwarves, like 6th edition dwarves for GW. I've got probably about 700, 1,000 points, maybe, of dwarves. But I was looking at this, and I'll be honest, I think I won't bother trying to hunt the old dwarves on eBay, the old dwarf kits on eBay. I'll just come to you and get you to 3D print me some shit. Depending on how these guys base, if they won't go down to 20s, that might be a problem. But if we can base them on 20 squares, then they'll definitely be getting you to just print me these fuckers. But yeah, this looks like a beautiful range of models. They've got everything in there. They've got variations on the Slayer theme. They've got scouts and miners. All of the classic Games Workshop units can be proxied and represented. Your Thunderers. It's all in here, plus loads of weird extras like these townsfolk and dwarf civilians. There's so much here. It's just brilliant range of miniatures, and the thing is as well, it's perfect for you because, like we've discussed on stream before, your dwarves is definitely where you want to go with the rank and flank fantasy thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it fits my armada as well. Varnishing
Orinoco is another good thing the airbrush is for. Yeah, I do basically all my varnishing with the airbrush now. And that's primarily because as well, I can't get an aerosol varnish I like. Anti-shine is good from Army Painter, but it's only good as a top coat. You've got to put another varnish beneath it because it doesn't. If your anti-shine isn't good enough for like metal miniatures, it doesn't protect them enough. It gives you a beautiful flat matte finish, but they just chip and damage. So you have to put like a satin or a gloss under it, then anti-shine on top, which is just.
You know what? I'm fucking giving up airbrushing because this is not going well.
I
can't get the consistency right with this orange brown to spray down nicely.
What is it, a Vallejo one?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Are you mixing it 50-50 with a thinner or something, or just trying to use it raw?
Yeah. Just mixing it in the brush, and it goes from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
It's watery AF and spidering, or it's okay.
Yeah.
And then when I top back up, it's watery AF, and yet the ratio is exactly the same each time.
I'll give you that, mate. I like my model colour, but you fuck me. Airbrushing with them requires a degree of patience and dedication that is not for every fucker. My life. Mecha Matte Varnish from Vallejo is great. Good shout, Darren. So is that a good matte varnish that actually gives you a physical resilience? Because this is always the trade-off, isn't it? The gloss stuffs and the satins give you the great protection, but sometimes the finish is not fabulous. The Munitorum from Citadel is actually not bad. It's very rare you'll hear me say a good fucking word about Citadel or Games Workshop in general, but fair play to them. Their Munitorum spray varnish isn't bad, but fuck off it's expensive. It's just expensive for the sake of being expensive. It's fucking ridiculous. And like I say, I've tried all sorts of fucking cheap rattle can bollocks varnish from like pound shops and stuff, and yeah, they're fine for terrain you don't give a fuck about, but you wouldn't. There's my missus in chat. Shout out Spam and Egg. We're having the other halves having a chin wag. Okay,
fuck.
That is a really good shout, Darren. Remember, David, you've got a better memory than me, mate. Mecha Matte from Vallejo.
It doesn't take a fucking lot, does it?
Ooh, rude. Rude. So yeah, we'll have to have I'll have a dig on that. Out of interest, Darren,
you remember what it was?
Mecha Matte. Is it an airbrush one, Darren? So is it like a dropper bottle one that you need to use in an airbrush, or do they do a rattle can version, or what? Just because I'm a lazy bastard and can't look for myself. Good shout, though, sir. Fucking good shout. Ah, there's a jerry can on it. Bastard. Right, okay. See, Jerry's always there first. He's always there first. No, this is your other one that you sent me, mate. Now, this one I haven't had as much of a look at, but fucking hell, it looks nice. So
Which
what's
is
this?
One? The
another
Eastern European.
Yeah,
another 3D printed.
Morotzivka, City of the Frost.
I thought this was really cool as an alternative Frostgrave.
Yeah.
It's something a little bit different.
Can I just say, Silver Bayonet Canada as well.
Yeah, you can do.
Looking at these log construction cabins, I think that might be a cool look. Lots of timber and tile.
It's a bit different, and the price isn't terrible.
What is this? Is this STLs again? Are you all getting ones and zeros on Evers?
STLs. I love my digital.
Fucking ones and zeros. That I'll give you it, mate. They do look beautiful. Are these? Have you had a deep dive? Are these like one-piece prints on many printers, or would you have to break these fuckers up?
I do believe there'll be multiple levels on.
Okay.
Multiple levels on.
You have to print them sectionally.
Yeah, similar to your Frostgrave stuff that you've got, dude.
That's really unusual. That's got a very, I guess, Russian Orthodox Slavic look. That's rather cool. That's a very cool little building, actually. Like that a lot.
That priest's house is
it's very cool. Those are really nice. Those are nice models. Whoever's done the painting, I don't know if that is a painted actual physical building, but fuck me, the painter's a legend. Whoever did the painting for this Kickstarter, fuck me, they're good. Snow effects are perfect on it as well. Lovely look.
Just enough, but not too much.
Great colour selection, great weathering and mottling on it. They're really nice, man. You reckon you're going to be backing that? I love these walls and stuff as well. These sort of fences.
I'm not sure. I've got to see how we get on this.
I must confess, they seem to be. They don't seem to fit the. They look an almost They've got an almost Oriental look. But then again, I suppose, if you go that.
Frostgrave's never described other than the fact that it's a frozen city in the north.
Yeah, to be fair though, I was just thinking that they don't seem to fit the buildings, but then I was thinking, to be fair though, there's like the Mongol regions in northern China and then the regions of northern Russia. This is probably where all this is fucking from, isn't it? This sort of architecture. And I bet you there is going to be some crossover because obviously, they're adjacent places in the world and they've got a long and tumultuous history. So I bet there is some, cultural sharing there.
Well, didn't fucking good old Genghis populate half of
Yeah. I like the piers and bridges are fucking cool as well. And these boats are great. If you get these boats, you can print me half a dozen of these because I've been wanting to build the river scenario from the Lich Lord campaign. I think it's scenario 2 where you have the ship trapped in the ice in the center of the table. I've been wanting to build that for ages, and little boats like this that I can convert where they're like grounded in the rocks or trapped in the ice would be perfect. There's loads of cool shit there, man.
Well, I've got to start printing your fetish stands at the weekend because I've got them all supported now, so it's just a case of hit go on the printer.
Has anyone said anything about the
No.
So Frostgrave is Leeds, basically. I don't know. I didn't see any boarded up windows when I was at university in Bradford. I used to visit my friends in Leeds 1. They all had them sort of like pillbox steel shutters on all of the windows in Leeds 1.
Or empty cans of special brew.
I don't know if the centre of Leeds has got any safer, but it was a fucking shithole in the early 90s when I was at uni. But yeah, that's town centre Leeds, I guess. I'm sure it's better now. I mean, everything's getting better in this country, isn't it? day by day. He said.
No.
You can tell I live in a fucking fantasy world, can't you? Right. Next video. This one's mine. My turn. Right. We're going to talk about it. We're not going to talk about it for long, but every other fucking idiot on the internet is talking about it. This is Uncle Atom's video about Games Workshop's latest fucking melodrama. So if you haven't been living under,
let's kill off all of the Sigmar shit.
yes. Okay. So just in case you've been living under a rock for the last fucking 7 days and don't know what's going on. Games Workshop have yet again made another fantastic PR move by basically announcing that they're going to fucking dump a preposterous amount of their model ranges from Age of Sigmar, which I think the model ranges are fucking bloated anyway, but we'll come to that. So they did this community post where they said, yeah, you see all these models here, say goodbye because they're all fucking going. And so as every content creator and his dog has made a video about it, and it's a mixed bag of news. That the article is not really very clear and it's a bit disingenuous, but the brutal truth of it is some of the stuff that they're getting rid of, like some of the Stormcast models, I am sure that they're going because they're going to be resculpted with the new look of Stormcasts, where they've gone less chunky and broad and a bit more slender and properly proportioned, humanly proportioned. So you'll probably see a lot of these discontinued models replaced by new sculpts. Ditto Skaven. I'm sure that a lot of the Skaven models that have been given the arse are simply because models are so bloody old, they want to refresh them, particularly as they're now they're one of the main factions in the AOS 4th edition relaunch. But some of the other stuff is like where they're literally just dumping factions. So they've finally decided nobody really likes Savage Orcs or Bone Splitters or whatever the fuck they're called now in Age of Shitmar. So we're not going to do Savage Orcs anymore. We're not going to do orcs that look like fucking. Maybe do you know what? There might even be a woke element to it. Oh no, we can't have fucking orcs with bones through their noses because that's fucking, that's white supremacist fucking racist bollocks. Yeah, okay, it's a fucking orc, you twat. So yeah, all I'm going to say is this, right?
Have you stepped off your salty bucks yet?
Mate, all I'm going to say is this, right? Games Workshop are fucking architects of their own misery. The reason that they're going to have to the reason that they do have to, and I totally understand why they've got to do it. The reason they've got to keep slashing and burning models that don't sell is because they can't stop releasing new fucking models. If you don't release 25 new models a fucking month for your core games, here is the news: you will not have to discontinue the same amount 12 months later so that you don't break your production capacity. Why don't you just slow it the fuck down, think about things before you put them on the fucking production pipeline, have a better development process, and then we won't have this fucking drama every 24 months or whatever the fuck it is. Because now everybody's shit scared of what's going to die in 40k. You've already announced that all of the fucking Firstborn Marines are going, and now everybody's like, oh, will my faction get binned because there's 14 factions in 40k and it's all a bit bloated. Oh.
Here's a radical idea.
Just fucking
play OPR.
It's just
problem solved.
Why? Just why? Why don't you give? Why don't you
sucking from the golden teat that slaps you down every 5 minutes and then sit there bitching about it on the internet in your mother's basement? Sorry.
No, I mean, as I say, I'm just fucking. I don't, let's just, it's just bollocks.
Right, hear me out. It will be news when GW don't kill a faction or models in a faction.
That, you see that salt that's falling on David, that should also be on me, but I don't have the twin salt shaker set up yet. I keep thinking about it and then forgetting to do it before each stream. So, Yeah, there's plenty of salt. We're gonna salt this one heavily. That's a heavily seasoned little comment montage there.
Comes with a seasoning warning.
Fucking, I mean, as I say, I don't play Age of Sigmar anymore. I played OPR Age of Fantasy. It's a better fucking game. So I didn't care. I don't care about Age of Shitmar. I won't be following the 4th edition. I won't be keeping my eyes glued to what's developing. I do not care anymore. But please, please, if you're watching this and you are a fan of Games Workshop, just take a deep breath, right? Think about what you enjoy about the hobby and ask yourself whether being tethered by the genitals to the fucking grist mill that is Games Workshop is actually as much fun as you think it is. And then when you decide it isn't, welcome to the world of wargaming and the panoramic view in front of you, which is everybody else. Okay?
Ewok, you're making it sound like a porno, mate. I'm just saying.
Fucking hell. I don't even... Yeah, we definitely do need it. Do you know what, Spam? This happens every show, and everybody says, "Why isn't the salt shaker on Paul? He's saltier than David now." And then I forget about it, and then it comes to live stream night, and I'm like, "Shit, I haven't updated that." So I will try and remember to do it at some point.
I'll bully you the next time I am round.
Yeah, and anyway, let's move the fuck on. I've said my piece. If you want to know more, just go on YouTube. You can't mucking move for people making videos about this. It is the hot topic. Hot like fresh manure hot. Right. Shall we move on? This one made me chuckle. I only watched it yesterday, I think. I don't watch Squidmar's content very much. It's all very well produced and that, but I don't really get engaged. But this, do you know what this made me laugh? This made me laugh because I had forgotten about this model. So for those of you who haven't watched this video, what you're seeing on screen is an Eldar Titan. This was one of the three original Eldar Titans that was released for Epic 40k back in the day.
Yeah, some of us weren't even a glint in our father's eye.
And yes, your eyes don't deceive you. It is actually a robot horse with a bright lance. Now, Squidmar's quite irreverent about this model, and I think it's got a bit of a reputation online for being like the shittest fucking model that Games Workshop ever produced. But I think it's quite cute, and it reminds me of a day when Games Workshop didn't take itself too fucking seriously, you know, and we could have models that were just sprinkled with just a little bit of fun and irreverence, and you know, everything wasn't super fucking grim dark and super fucking serious. Yeah, like the Nagash model.
Has it got skulls on it?
Oh, I don't fucking know.
No, coming to the Grimdark comment. Has it got fucking skulls on it?
Bushy Nagash.
Because you can't move.
I've got Bushy Nagash upstairs. There's nothing wrong with him apart from his preposterous head, which looks like Skeletor, but it's sort of like he looks like Skeletor with water retention. Ah, dear. Fucking evening, Taros. So yes, do you know what? Go and watch this video, just in case. Because here's the other insane thing: back in the day when Epic was a thing, there was a company, I think they were called Armorcast, that actually made resin upsculpts or resin scaled up versions of all of the Epic shit for you to play in your 40k games. And he goes into he's done a bit of a journalistic research. Apparently, just before Armorcast lost their license and were no longer allowed to produce things, they were actually planning a full-blown 28 or 32 mil resin version of this robot Eldar horse. Which I don't know about you, I think is fucking genius. And if somebody
It's a crime.
if somebody has a prototype, then fuck me. If they find a photo of it online, please send it me.
If we can find an original model, let's 3D scan it and then just print it.
I mean, again, in the video, apparently there are like sort of like Facebook groups where people build and convert existing Eldar Titan and Phantom Titan kits and actually have made their own, just as a bit of an homage, which again is a level of fucking hobby genius that should be celebrated. But yeah, just a fun little video. Go and check it out. And I think that's us done for news, and we've only overrun by 5 minutes, mate, which really isn't too bad, is it?
I mean, it depends. We could make it drag on for like 15 if we wanted to. We can go find some more news.
Oh, yeah, there is. Oh, fuck. What did I say a minute ago? There's another thing I wanted to put up in the news. What was it?
You didn't get the fact that I was trying to be punny about the main topic there. But yes, you did forget about Mike Hutchinson.
Yeah, okay. Oh, my God. Duh! I keep 40k as my friends like to play it now and then. I like to annoy them by having Marines in there from the early 80s. Freestyle. Good for you, Darren. Fucking good for you. What can I use to get Sharpie off skin? Asking for a friend. Acetone.
Alcohol. Isopropyl alcohol.
Acetone.
Why have you got Sharpie on your skin? Have you been doing Yawn's eyes again?
Yeah, I was going.
Scalpel.
If it's going anywhere near your eyes, probably don't use ISO or acetone. That'll sting. But if it's not going near your eyes, yeah, either of those will do the job.
Just don't lick your hands after.
Well, it won't matter because if it's acetone and you leave it more than about half a second, there won't be fucking anything left on your skin. It'll evaporate. Fairly low boiling point acetone.
No, the surgeon earlier. Oh, so you got properly drawn up then?
What was he doing? Marking you up for fucking jointing?
We want that one.
Right, okay, mate.
Has he got left and right there?
Fucking hell. Well? Cheese me's got a bit brutal. Cheese grater. Fucking hell.
The best is the boys and girls in chat, other than me, you, Ross, and Spam, don't know where she's obviously been drawn.
Yeah, that's true. That's good.
Which makes it even fucking worse.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there are some corners of the internet where the cheese grater might be the thing. I mean, I use it for getting super glue off my fingers. I'm not sure I'd use it for getting fucking permanent marker off me. Whatever. So yeah. So shall we discuss main topic then? So
no, you were finding Mike's survey.
I was not
getting away with it.
God, hang on a minute. Let me paint this fucking window frame. There was something else.
A bullet again.
There was something else I was going to share, and I can't. Oh, I've just remembered what it is. There are 2 more little news articles. You start telling everybody about the main topic. I'm going to go. I'm going to go and have a look at these 2 things. So.
The main topic. How long should your game be? We had a game on Monday, and I think the topic of conversation came shortly after when we got to Mackie's, didn't it, Ginge? That we played a game, and the result we had at 8 o'clock.
I apologise for dodgy audio, people, while I'm opening web pages. I know that my potato computer sometimes fucks things up. Carry on, sir.
The Paul was winning. And then second place was between me and Trevor jostling for position, and Ricky was in last place. Didn't change between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock when we finally finished. So we did question our life choices and decisions, But it sparked me and Paul thinking of, actually, how long is too long? And also, how do you manage this kind of situation with your game length from both a game design point of view and as a player? So that's sort of what started it, wasn't it, Ginge?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, because of the experience we had, we basically asked ourselves the question: why did this game outstay its welcome? What happened? And this led on to the whole discussion around game length. Okay, so let me put this up first. So here's what we were talking about earlier. So this is the Planet Smasher games, Planet Smasher blog, Gaslands survey results up on screen now. As I say, if you go to Planet Smasher Games blog, it's one of the entries.
It's all broken down really nicely into nice pie charts and pretty
graphs. He's got some great graphics, which I think one of his fans from his Discord
Patreon
server or Patreon, yeah, that was it, helped him do. And it's got everything about the kind of scenarios people play, what rules they use, what rules they don't use, etc.
What they enjoy about the game, what they don't enjoy about the game.
If you're into Gaslands, well worth a read. It's a really good little article.
I'll tell you the most interesting thing I found out about this article.
Go on.
Everybody in the community raves about how cheap it is to get into, how cheap it is to play, how enjoyable it is from that point of view, because it's a breath of fresh air of buy a miniature or buy a card, do a little bit of modding work, buy a rule book, and you're done. And yet it didn't feature as prominently in the results as he was expecting. It was up there still, but it wasn't as in depth as he initially thought it would be.
This was the news article I was going to put up, but then I forgot. And I don't know, I haven't mentioned it to David yet, but this is probably going to go on my list of purchases for this year if I can afford it. Spectre Operations are releasing a new 2-player starter set. Ricky, a guy at our club.
I keep looking at this, and they've got fucking STLs for it as well, dude.
Yeah. Ricky, a guy at our club, loves his historical war games and would love more, I think, modern warfare. He's ex-army himself. I think this would be right in his fucking wheelhouse. I have looked at this game a couple of times and thought, do you know what? I really fancy the look of it. I really fancy the idea of playing it. I think it could be a lot of fun. So this might be going on my list of miniatures of games to get. And I'm really liking the small scale nature of it. I'm loving these sort of games. What's that World War II sort of like stealth one?
200 hours.
0200, yeah, that's another one that I think the other thing about 0200, 0200 is insane value for what you get in the box. You get I think it works out nearly £1 a miniature. You get like 40 miniatures for 40 quid, plus all of your tokens, rules, and shits get going. I'm not sure about this Spectre Ops in terms of the value.
It's dear. It's dear.
It is.
That is about 80 quid right there.
Yeah, for what? About 12 minis, a bit of terrain. Ugh. Yeah, okay. So this is expensive, but it does tempt me. It does tempt me. And you say there are STLs.
Because again, yeah, it's funny because on my phone, I have their fucking STL stuff open and I follow them on Instagram.
Cool.
And it hadn't even sort of crossed my mind that it'd be something you were interested in. I know Ricky was interested in it, and I think I initially pointed it out to him when I saw it on the old Instagram algorithm going, feed me. But yeah, it looks really good.
I watched a
looks
couple
really
of
cool.
YouTube video playthroughs of a previous edition, I think.
Yeah,
Because it's a game that doesn't get a lot of
watch
YouTube
loads.
coverage. That's the trouble with it.
Yeah, a lot of the coverage is their own coverage, isn't it?
Yeah. So, but it
play and everything.
It does look quite good.
I love the fact that we've gone wildly off topic for the past 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And chat and just talking amongst themselves about the main topic.
Yeah. So
we've got
what?
Darren going. For me,
Go on,
it's now It's now necessarily about the length of the game, but how much downtime each player has. It's why with games like 40k, you can be waiting a good half hour not doing anything.
Yeah. That is definitely an issue, Darren. Toros has just given us a tip. Plenty of modern figures out there for Spectrops that are cheaper than their miniatures. Yeah, okay. We will look at that. Thanks, Toros and Ewok. We will look at that definitely if we end up getting into the game. So yeah, coming back to the main topic. I agree with what you're saying there, Darren, that downtime is a factor, but let's not... I want to keep it focused on the actual length of the game, because when we started talking about it, I mean, obviously for us, the game that triggered the conversation was Gaslands, and particularly the Death Race scenario. So the Death Race scenario, for those who don't know, has 2 win conditions. One is if a player passes the finish line after having passed through all the gates. So effectively you execute a lap of the track and get over the line. That ends the game, you win, well done. There is another win con where if you're the only player with active vehicles at the end of any gear phase, you win by default. So it doesn't matter where you are in the game. If you've blown and wrecked every car on the table and you're the only person with an active vehicle at the end of the gear phase, you win, well done. So even though but the problem is like when you look at, we did a brainstorming session, mate, didn't we? And we picked games. We talked about the games that we play, and so many of the games that we play, even if the scenario has got win conditions like that, there will often be the game ends at the end of X turns, or sooner if Y happens, doesn't it?
Flames of War is a prime example.
Okay.
Of it's a 6-turn game, or you can't score until turn 6, but when scoring happens in turn 6, if you're on the objectives and your opponent isn't there to defend them, then guess what, mate? You've won.
Dead Zone, which I played 2 weeks ago. There is a variable points total that depends on the size of the game. So what we were playing was 150 points lists. First player to score 16 points, I believe it is, wins the game. Or the game ends at end of turn 5, I believe it is. And whoever has the highest is the winner. So it's like there is a win con, but then there is a time limit.
Armada is just mainly time limits. Of the game is 8 turns, or well, I suppose it's that, or wipe your opponent off the face of the planet.
Yeah. So like the old classic 40k. Well. If you're not tabled, it's the end of turn 6 or whatever.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'll be honest. I think it was. I can't remember who it was who said in the chat. I'm going to scroll back and have a look. I'm just going to skip over to YouTube and scroll back and have a quick butchers. Because somebody made a very good point, which is about... It might
Night Cheese Me.
Night Cheese Me. Oh, I can't see it now. Was it Cheese Me? Yeah, so it was Cheese Me. Basically, he's saying stop playing when it's not fun anymore. And do you know what? That is absolutely insightful, and it's spot on. But for me, the issue that I felt a bit this is what made me disappointed with Gasland. The thing that made me disappointed was when you're developing a game, you have an opportunity to find out where's that sweet spot. At what point? I mean, again, it's going to vary with every play group. Some people will happily play a game for 8 hours.
We made a point of this when we were discussing this before stream with what you're doing. Like, Underworlds for us is a game we like from GW.
Yeah.
It's very definitive, 3-turn game, 4 actions per player, per turn. The only variability in it is the cards. Go have fun with that, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, and to basically reinforce what I was saying a minute ago, like David just said, what makes that game so good? One of the features is that exact structure, isn't it, mate?
Yeah,
because we said what if
being on the time.
Because we said what if it was 4 turns or 5 or 6, and immediately it's like, I don't think the game would be as good. I think you'd get sick of it, Yeah,
and the fact that it's quick, it's punchy, it's not up itself is what makes it fun. Because again, you can absolutely be hammered in turn 1 or turn 2, and you just know you can basically skip and pass your 4 actions, and the game's over, and you can rack and go again.
That is very true. Without being totally non-interactive and ridiculous, if you are getting butchered, like you say, you can effectively just speed the game. You can speed run the game and be done in like an hour, can't you?
Yeah.
Easy. And like you say, just put all the miniatures back. Let's reshuffle the decks and play this fucker again.
And then you have the other end of the spectrum of games, Frostgrave and Gaslands, that just seem to go on and on and on. Like I made the example to you when we were talking about this topic pre-stream. If you're playing with that guy, or you're trying to milk every last ounce from the scenario, just leave a treasure guy holding the table, and then if you're the last one standing, you milk all the treasure that's left.
Yeah.
Happy days. But your opponent's trying to do the same shit to you. So the game's just going on and on and on, and the wandering monsters are starting to eat your face.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, Frostgrave is quite it's got the same issue probably as Gaslands, in that there are very few scenarios with fixed time limits. Having said that, there is huge variability within the scenarios in Frostgrave. Some of them do have time clocks on them, but a lot don't. But the game is so lethal, often everybody wants to get the job done and fuck off. Nobody wants to draw it out because the scenarios tend to be quite lethal in their own ways. So it sort of works.
Just risking stuff.
Darren makes a good point where it's from habit. We've long got into the habit of playing to a certain time with long games like 40k. You finish the turn we're on at 11 o'clock and decide the winner. I think there is something to that, Darren. I think that, I mean, the problem is I can't speak to historicals because I've not played a lot of historicals. I got in with Games Workshop, and it's only now in my 50s that I'm starting to go back out and look at, shall we say, less mainstreaming rule sets and that sort of thing. But certainly I think that the game design from the 90s, a lot of the stuff is just terrible. They're just terrible rule sets. It has to be said. I mean, I enjoyed 2nd edition 40k at the time as a teenager and a young guy in my 20s. If I played it today, I'd fucking hate it. And I think there is a lot of the fact that we got acclimatized into bad habits back in the day, and that actually now that the games are starting to become the modern game designers are writing much more sophisticated and tight rule sets.
I'll tell you another thing here. You can put your game on a clock without stating specifically, it's got to be over in 6 turns. As you've just touched on with Frostgrave, the fact that it's so fucking lethal and horrible, you don't want to hang around. You want to get in, get out, and get fucked off.
Yeah.
Right? The other one that really springs to mind is Arkham Horror. The game...
The board game.
Yeah, the board. You either plod along, doing all right with the scenario, or it all goes very wrong very fucking quickly, and you're completely out of control, depending upon what you have in the bag, your RNG with the dice, etc., everything else. But yeah, even though there is that variability between it all going a bit Pete Tong, and it is a sort of 3-hour game, plodding away. It's a game we enjoy because the plodding along is done narratively, and that is the key thing there. Even though it's passing by at a sedentary rate for other people that we have as friends that would play the game, for me and Paul, it just hits the mark beautifully. And this is the other thing. A lot of this is personal. Because again, the Gaslands game that we were playing, as me and Paul touched on, we said, I think we called it about 8:30, didn't we, mate? Of, well, we know who's going to win with the respawns and everything. And lo and behold, 2 hours later, we were correct.
I'll be honest, I didn't really think about it at the time. It was like, but what did happen was when we got to be packing up at 10 o'clock, I actually had sort of like almost like a Paul on the road to Damascus moment where I looked at the table and I thought, this looked like this 2 hours ago. Do you know what I mean? We literally, we've literally moved, the cars have moved 6 inches and blown up twice. And all we've done is go around this table and achieve nothing. And it left this bad feeling in my sort of like psyche. Yeah. Maybe I'm too critical. Maybe I'm a bit too much of a fucking, maybe I'm too obsessed with my games being clean and moving quickly. Maybe I'm a weirdo, but I'm sorry. That's what I want. I when I see clunkiness and when I see things breaking and falling apart, it pisses me off. And I'll be honest, I got a little bit more annoyed about it the more we talked about it, because it's like I said, for Infinity, you've got a 3-turn clock. Crack on, because you've only got 3 turns. It's such an absolutely core game design feature. So many modern war games have a fixed turn limit. And
Darren, unfortunately, that's what like having kids and everything does. You just don't have those multi-day games anymore. I mean, I have never played a multi-day game. I think the closest me and you have done, Paul, is we played a game at club of 7th edition 40k, and then we reran it at yours one weekend.
Yeah, and that was a long weekend game, wasn't it? It was a 1 day, but it was a long day. No, I'll be honest, I did it when I was a teenager, mate, but I have no appetite for it now. And to be honest, it annoys me because I just look at a game that takes that long and just think this is a bad game. There should be a quicker way to get to a conclusion. You know, when your gaming experience, again, feel free to criticize me if I'm being an idiot, but when your gaming experience is that uncurated and open-ended that it can go on for, it can either last an hour or 12 hours and only the dice and fucking fate will tell you which, that pisses me off. Because I'm just like, well, why? This game should be better designed than that. You know, I mean, it begs the question, why would you not want a fixed clock on your game? Why would you not want your game to be 4 turns, 5 turns?
Because again,
go on, mate.
If you shorten your clock and you're only on like a 3-turn clock with Underworlds or Infinity, or even if you have the Flames of War style of this is a 6-turn game, you cannot score objectives until turn 6, but when you do score objectives, it will be over very fucking quickly. It adds an air of tension to the game.
Yeah.
It adds a element of we've got to get this shit done and get it done in the most optimum way possible and problem solve and do that kind of thing.
So
Blood Bowl.
Hang on a minute before you move on, mate. First, so here we go. David's got the first one. First pro of a fixed turn game, developing tension. If your game is not open-ended and you know that you have a clock, tension. It puts you under pressure to achieve the objective you have to achieve. Just Darren says, with our multi-day games, we did it on purpose. Remember, 10,000 points. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that when we were young and foolish, Darren, we all did that. So you were about. So that's a pro. That's a pro.
Blood
what were you about to say? Blood Bowl.
Blood Bowl is a prime example of tension. It's only a 16-turn game, and it's a football game. You kick off in one half, your opponent kicks off in another half. The con to that tension...
I wondered if you were going to do this. Lovely segue.
Is that because it's a 16-turn game and you're a bashy as fuck team, don't let the opponent that's quick and fast have the ball. Beat the shit out of them.
Yeah. Go on.
Moves the play style from tension and an air of mystery, as there is in Infinity and in Underworlds, to this is a 16-turn game. You are going to endure those 16 turns. You better just hope that your opponent is on a similar page and isn't going to beat the living shit out of your Skaven team.
Yeah, to put that in more general terms for games that are not as specific as, to make it less specific to Blood Bowl, I think what David's saying there is like, that it's a brilliant segue into, because Blood Bowl is an example of the game has 2 halves, each of 8 turns, so there's your tension. You've got to get the points scored in that time period. You can't just keep playing forever. But here's the flip side. When you do have a fixed time length, that might make certain strategies or teams or forces have an inherent advantage. So if your game is very short and you'll have a very fast, aggressive force that can achieve its objectives quickly, they will have an advantage over a slower, more ponderous force. Similarly, if you have a game length that's too long, the slower, more ponderous forces that can deal out a lot of damage and weather a lot of damage will eventually destroy the faster, more agile troops, which is exactly what happens in Blood Bowl. If you look at one of the issues Blood Bowl had for decades was that the bashy, aggressive teams, it didn't matter if your Wood Elf player went 2 or 3 goals ahead in the first half of turn 1 of the first half of the game, because by the end of the first half of the game they had no players left, so then you could just score as many fucking goals as you liked and set the game back up again. Do you know what I mean? It was like, because we've said there's a pro of tension, a fixed game length. If you put a fixed game length on, the negative is you've got to be very careful about where that length is, because you can easily fuck your game up and also paint yourself into a corner where certain strategies are just not going to work.
Again, and or the win condition. Because if Blood Bowl... Blood Bowl's a bad example. Let's go to one we both love, God Tier.
Yep.
5-turn game. Bashy and aggro is effective, holding the fort and the line is effective. And the reason that is the case is because the game only goes to turn 3, 4, or 5 ever, because it's first to 5 VP. The first turn you score 1 if you win the turn. The second turn you score 2. The third turn you score 3. Turn 4 you score 2. Turn 5 you score 1. So it means that turn 3 is the most critical and important turn for everyone, no matter your aggro or holding the line play style. You want to score turn 3.
Which, to be fair, is probably a genius. I mean, it's almost as if the game designer had played a lot of Blood Bowl and thought, there's an issue here. Well, what if I basically weight all of the points and the advantage to the middle and make the early game and the end game less important, so that the tension point moves to the middle of the game? Brilliant piece of game design. Put a fixed clock on it, but then have the variable scoring.
Yeah,
Absolute gem. Really good shout out that. It's such a good example of how to do a fixed game length that doesn't favour a particular playstyle or faction. Very clever.
Yeah.
Very clever. What were some of the other pros? Because we were talking about pros and cons last night, weren't we? There's the issue of like making your design harder and your balance more difficult. There's the issue of tension, which is definitely a pro. I think the other pro, I've already. Let me just have a go a minute, mate. So this was only brief because I've sort of mentioned it. One of the pros of a fixed game length is you actually tell your players how long the game is going to go. Okay, you having play tested the game, having developed the game, having an idea in your head of what's the sweet spot. Well, after we played this for an hour and a half, we pretty much had enough. Most players don't want to play on for the second or third hour, so we'll make it like a 3-4 turn game, whatever, so that it's over in that time period. As a game designer, putting that clock on gives you control over the gaming experience, and it makes it less likely that your players will enter into it and get a gaming experience out of it that you weren't expecting them to. So, like, oh, hang on, this game takes all fucking day. It's way too slow. Or they go into it and, oh, God, that was over too quick. Why? I wish we'd play on for another half an hour. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's an advantage of having it as well. It gives you a more consistent gaming experience in general. Have you got any more, mate?
Particularly with games that have scenarios and objective scoring and point scoring.
Right.
When the game is 6 turns, you spend the first 2 or 3 setting up. You then go for the killing blow in turns 4, 5, and 6 so that you're on it at the end. But your opponent's doing the same. It's, again, a similar air of tension.
Yep.
For that particular scenario where it's everything's at the last minute. If it's a more 40k-esque scenario where we need to take an objective, we need to hold an objective, we need to score an objective every turn to rack up the points across this 6-turn game.
Yep.
Again, it gives you the scenarios in that 6-turn game give you a different play experience.
Pardon me. Sorry about the cough, everybody. I'm in my 3rd week of being ill. Yeah, okay. So scenarios then. So what are we saying? Are we saying that scenarios work better with fixed term games? I suppose the problem is if you have a game that's heavily reliant on its scenario outcome and you don't have a fixed clock, you've got to be very on point with how you design your scenarios, haven't you?
Yeah. Yes.
Otherwise, everything gets a bit woolly.
Looking at you, Frostgrave.
Then again, the other thing to take away from that is that... I tell you, here's the other thing, right? Here's another reason why fixed game length might be where it might be strong. The force might be strong in it here. What about the multiplayer versus two-player thing? Do you think the more players that you open your game up to, the more you need to be aware of game length and perhaps having a fixed clock?
Possibly, because again, if you only have a definitive amount of time to play with your friends, say it's 3 hours at your local gaming club, we have had to house rule the shit out of Frostgrave.
Yes, we have.
To play games in that time period as 4-player games.
Yeah, because
we have had to basically say, look, Frostgrave is designed to have 20 miniatures on the table from the 2-player experience of 2 warbands of 10.
Yeah.
As a consequence, in a 4-player game, you can only bring 5 miniatures.
Yeah, however many players you've got, try and keep the number of models on the table to around 20. Just divide it out and get as close as you can. That's what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
And again, similarly, Gaslands, we try to go for 1-car builds so that we're not going around the table multiple times.
Because that's the other thing that's...
gear phase.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that's scary. Can you imagine if we're running 2-car lists with 4 players? We'd be there all fucking night. And it's a shame. So yeah, there's another one. There's another sort of like... That's another pro of... I would call that a definite advantage to a fixed clock system in your war game, is that it allows you to accommodate the multiplayer option with more confidence, because, you've still got to think, I mean, it's not perfect, because like David said, you've got to think about how many resources does each player have to play with, because if they are, if you go from 20 models on the table to 50 models on the table, keeping the turns the same, you still might treble the play length. So maybe that's not necessarily a thing. But I definitely think it's more dangerous if you don't have one. To go multiplayer without it. Another thing I was thinking, right? What about competitive play?
How do you mean?
Well, it's not a thing for everybody, and not everybody likes tournament games. Me and you don't give a shit either way. But if you think about some of the games that are very successful as tournament games, Infinity, Kings of War, if they were open-ended and didn't have like turn limits, can you imagine how awkward and horrible that would be to run tournaments?
Oh, Darren's just come in with a corker. I found Billion Suns a fixed game length. I feel like there's hardly enough time to do all I want in the game. The time pressure is very real in that game.
You mentioned Billion Suns when we talked about that.
I spoke with Paul on this last night. So Billion Suns, for those that don't know, you set the table up with a number of contracts depending on the suits that you draw from a deck of cards, and they give you different contracts. The 4 different suits in the game score differently. So there is a suit that plays in the face-up position. Scale is the number of assets you have in the game. So if it's a scale 3 game, it's 3, 2, and 1. One suit of cards is face-up with the highest scale number on the top. Most of those cards are gone very quickly by round 2 or round 3, and they're gone, even if it's a scale 5 or 6 game. The other suit plays low to high, 1, 2, 3, for example, and 3 is on the bottom. So you want to be the last person to score that game. The other 2 suits are shuffled indiscriminately face down. So you don't know what you're scoring. What it gives you is, for example, if you have a 4-sector game with all the suits in play, you have a sector that you want to go really fast in and go really hard. You want a sector that you want to be the last person in that sector scoring, but you don't want to leave it too late because your opponent might score before you do. And then you've got 2 sort of chaff sectors where you don't really know what the outcomes are, but you're going to go there just to make sure you're getting points and credits on the board so you win the game. It's a fucking genius system.
It does sound
Absolutely
brilliant, to be fair, the way you describe
genius.
it. Sadly, it's a game I've not played yet, but it does sound absolutely brilliant. It's such a clever design mechanic. I wish I'd thought of it. I'm actually jealous. It's a brilliant idea.
And it's odd here because that comes from Mike Hutchinson, the same guy that built Gaslands.
Yeah, but you know, it's like I said, our experience with Gaslands. The thing with Gaslands is it's such a free form game. You know, it's quite. I mean, essentially, you've got 150-page rule book for everything. There are so many variables, it's ridiculous. You know, it's true multiplayer. There's so many things that could affect the game. I just think it's probably one of those things where when he play tested it, he never came across any issues. Chess clocks are very popular, Darren, in Kings of War, aren't they? The thing with chess clocks is that's a next level thing, because and one of the things that I admire so much about the design of the Kings of War game is that chess clocks only work when you do not have any opportunities for your opponent to take your time in your turn. So you need to plan and think about, is there any dice rolling? Is there any random generation?
The game is designed in a very specific way.
And what you basically have to do is say, okay, when this person's on the clock, only they are active. The opponent literally does nothing. So, and obviously Kings of War is designed brilliantly. So it's like, when you attack your enemy unit, you roll all the dice. You roll to hit, you roll to damage, you break their nerve. It's all on you. You. They do nothing. All they might need to do is pull their unit back an inch or reposition after you've charged. They are to completely passive while you do your shit. Now, not necessarily always a good thing. I mean, we did talk about at the beginning with the problem with 40k, where you have that your opponent does loads of shit for about half an hour and you sit there and look at your mobile and stare off into space, just being asked to make armor saves occasionally. So non-interactivity can be taken too far, but to enable the chess clock thing to work, you have to have that. Your time's got to be encapsulated quite sharply. Otherwise, it doesn't work, because your opponent just has too much opportunity to burn your time by rolling their dice. Oh, I'll just re-roll these. Oh, and that one's rolled off the table, and I just need to... no, doesn't work. But it can be a thing. You just got to design for it. Well, I mean, I don't know. I think we've touched on a lot there with game length.
Shall we go to the cons?
Well, we've had one con. What other cons can you think of, mate? We've had one, which is that it might restrict your design, and it is actually, you've got to be very careful about how long you pick as your length, because
I'll come to
Frostgrave. Go on. Yeah.
If it was on a clock, John Rambo wouldn't have killed the fucking giant worm. So many of the narrative cinematic moments we have had in Frostgrave, for example, when I'm walking off the board with my wizard and I bone darted the guy across the table and just point out killed him, as I'm leaving, would never have happened if it had been on a clock.
Why? Because the game will have ended before we got to that point.
The game would have already ended.
Yeah.
So there.
No, you're right. There are certain gaming.
It's a double-edged Damoclean sword in a very narrative-focused game, like Gaslands to a degree, if you're playing particularly in a campaign mode, or in Frostgrave.
Yeah,
it's no bad thing.
Yeah.
Because again, how many Frostgrave, right? We don't play one-shot Frostgrave and roll up a new wizard each time.
No.
It's narrative and it's development work.
But I think, to be
right?
fair, I think Frostgrave would actually be quite a weak game in that mode.
No, but the point I'm trying to make
Yeah.
here is Gaslands.
Oh.
We have only played as one-shot games, mainly Death Race.
Oh, that is a good shout about. Okay. Yes. So actually, that might be an important thing to actually draw a distinction about. Are narrative campaign style games, are they? Because there is something. Here's probably the best way to phrase what you're trying to express. When you put a fixed clock on a game, you do add sort of a dry formality to the proceedings, don't you? It's all very business-like. This has got to be done, and we've only got this much time to do it. And yeah, like Darren says, the alternative to that is you don't by doing that, you don't give the game room to breathe. You don't give room for your story to come out. And actually, maybe, but again, I'm going to come back to the game designer, right? David's just literally banged the nail square on the head. Why don't we play Frostgrave, where we take first level warbands and just keep replaying different scenarios? Why do we play Frostgrave campaign? Because by taking raw warbands and doing the first mission effectively over and over again, I don't think it would have any charm or engagement. Do you? Or very little?
No.
Gaslands, however, we've always played like that. We've never even felt the need for a campaign because that sort of like actual core gaming experience is good enough. So maybe it's just on Mike. Mike was like, "I want to give the room game." Mike, it didn't need it, mate. The game did not need that open-ended room to breathe. What the game needed was putting a bit more structure in there was absolutely fine because the game was so good and so tight and so thinky and interactive with all your movement and stuff that actually the formality was already there in effect. Do you think?
Yeah, because you're template picking and solving that conundrum, you didn't need the open-ended nature of it.
Yeah, no, I think that is a very good shout. That is a superb fucking shout. So, there's your con. There's another con. Fixed clocks on games can stifle narrative opportunities and they increase the formality of the gaming experience, which might not be what you're looking for in your game.
From your particular game.
Yeah. So, yeah, I will definitely say that that's a thing. Have you got any more? As you're completely fucking on fire. To be fair, I think
another con of a long game really here.
Yeah.
Is that if your game has no definitive endpoint and you get bored of it halfway through, you're in a social setting with some friends, and if your friend is having fun and you're not, that leaves you in a bit of a predicament of, well, do I be that guy and say I'm not having fun and pick all my shit up off the table and go home? And in a multiplayer game, it's not so bad because there's other players there to pick up the slack. But in a two-player game, it feels terrible.
I was going to say, and the sort of the extension for that, or probably the way I would, the emphasis I would put on that is, and I think we talked about it last night and we'd just forgotten. We said about landslide games, didn't we?
Yes.
So like you've got a player who's getting absolutely fucking butchered and they've got no chance of winning. They're completely disengaged from the experience.
We touched on it earlier with Underworlds a bit.
Yeah.
That re-rackability.
To be fair,
with
we
how
did. You're
quick
right.
It plays.
Yeah, no, you're right.
But with a longer game like 40k, you're left in a more of a predicament. You can't just go, right, well, re-rack.
At the end of the day, though, mate, I suppose, do you know what? This is one of those ones that it's neither a pro nor a con, is it? It's sort of in the middle, because on the pro side, so if we're making the argument where you must choose a game length of X turns, 4, 5, 6, whatever, pick your fucking poison, that you're the developer, you should know. But if you pick a fixed value and your opponent, there's a point a third of the way through the game where I can't fucking win. This, to be fair, I've watched a lot of board game reviews online, and this is one of the big problems with a lot of board games and where they fail, is that there is this scenario where you're going to have to play out X amount of turns, but by this point, 2 or 3 of the players are like, why? Why should we do this? There's no fucking point.
I'll tell you
the other way,
it good, and that we spoke about Arkham Horror board game. In how quickly that death spiral occurs.
Yeah.
You don't get stuck in a predicament as you're about to say of, well, we've got to carry on playing these turns. It's like, no, the world's ended, you've died.
To be fair, though, Arkham is a bit of a unique thing because it is fully co-op. Like, all the players are in the same boat together. You're either all winning or you're all losing. There's no adversarial element to it, except it's you lot versus the game. Obviously, in a war game, if we're talking about a scenario where there are winners and there are losers, that one of the advantages of picking a fixed length is, even if somebody's getting battered, they know that the end is coming at some point. But then again, the counterpoint to that is you might be better not having a fixed length, but having a win con, so that, let's say, for example, we're playing Dead Zone, and after turn 3, it's sort of like 16-0. I win. We just stop playing at turn 3 because I'm winning 16. I've got my 16 points. I've absolutely fucking hammered you. Let's get this misery over and done with. So, and again, this is why we see so many games. Well, I looked through the Warhammer Fantasy Rulebook, 8th edition rulebook. Every single one of the core scenarios, I think, bar Watchtower. Oh, and the Blood and Valor one where you got to take out banners, which had an insta-win ending. But they were all like, play to 6 turns, or if X happens. So it's all play to this, or if this happens, it ends the game early. Like I say, fixed game length. It could be good, could be bad. I hope you guys have enjoyed that chat. It's
been a bit of a wonder.
I think, do you know what, though? Compared to some of the ones we've done, I think that was quite well structured. I think that I'm going to set my stall out. My core premise is this. I think most games should be designed with a fixed length of turns or rounds or whatever the fuck is the thing of your game as the almost default setting. And I am not saying that there aren't going to be exceptions to that, but I think if you are designing a game, board game, card game, fucking miniature war game, whatever, your default should be, okay,
and that isn't your default.
I'm gonna have a fixed length. I'm gonna set the boundaries on what the players have to do, and then maybe through playtesting you think, well, no, actually, there are more elegant ways to do it in this game, like Billion Suns or whatever. But for me, I'm setting my stall out. That's my opinion. What do you think, mate? Are you on board with that, or do you have a different view?
I'm of a similar opinion. I do find variable turn games probably slightly less egregious than you.
What do you mean by that? Well, as in they're less annoying?
Yeah, so Gaslands is obviously what sparked this conversation.
And I think
Gaslands isn't a game that's up its own arse and is like other games, 40k, looking at you, or that kind of thing. It's about chucking some dice and having some fun with your friends.
Yeah, I guess so.
Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no, and that's totally fair, which is why I said there might be an element of this is a Paul problem, where like if you're getting bored, maybe Gaslands isn't the game for you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm totally, I am going to put my hand up and say there might be an element of that. I am a guy who probably isn't Mike's target audience for this game, because I'm wanting more structure, I'm wanting to get the job done, and that's not really what Mike was going for. So no, I will totally put my hand up to that, mate. Right, I think it's 10 o'clock. It's time we wound up. Thank you very much.
It was an interesting wonder.
Yep.
And
thanks very much for everybody who was in the chat tonight. As usual, all the praise goes to these guys over in the chat. They make the show. We're just fucking idiots along for the ride. If you can only find time to do one thing, whether you're here with us tonight or watching us later on YouTube, please click the like button. It massively helps with YouTube pushing the video out for other recommendations, and it only takes a second. Obviously, if you can do the other stuff, share, comment, subscribe, whatever, then that helps massively, particularly sharing, because obviously YouTube, the algorithm's not very sophisticated. It tends to push what it wants to push, and long form video like this on such a niche topic as our hobby are not going to get shared widely by YouTube's algorithm. So if you can do the legwork and put it in your local gaming club Facebook group, or just send it to a friend who you think might want to watch, that's absolutely amazing, and we are so grateful for you guys to do that. So unless you've got anything else to say, mate, I think we better sign off.
I don't think we have anything else to say other than, can we make them endure another 60 seconds of just perfect silence?
No, because I'll cough.
To make it slightly awkward.
No, I will cough. Right. With that said, we're going.
Night, guys.
See you later.